reflecting back at myself when this employee left, what I realized was we had not set up a clear, concise path for future growth, both financially and professionally within here at Royal Flush. I think in my picture in my mind, those are conversations that we could have had. I'm like, I don't want this to ever happen again. And so I use this as a point of like, okay, so what can we do to eliminate that from happening in the future? Welcome to the Royal Flush Podcast. My name is John Overy, the VP of Sales here at Royal Flush. In this podcast, we cover the ins and outs of our ever-growing state-of-the-art pipelining company. And specifically for this episode, Kyle and I sit down, give you an update on the status of our business. We talk about forecasting from now to the end of the year. We talk about a couple of hiccups with some past employees who have left, the planning for hiring some future employees, and we go in depth a process that we're going to implement for our employees to strategically set up a structured system for them to grow within our company. I think it's a great episode. Hopefully you can take some tidbits from it that you can maybe apply to your business. Have a listen. Stay tuned. Thanks a lot.
Welcome to the Royal Flush Podcast. I'm Kyle McShane. I'm here with John.
Hey Kyle, how's it going, man?
Not too bad, living the dream. So this episode is basically kind of just like a business check-in, end of summer, kind of things we've picked up along the way so far this year, and maybe goals going forward.
Definitely.
And things coming up in the business. So I guess, first of all, what's going on currently? What are we working on? Kind of break that down.
We have, we're filming this on, what's today? Wednesday, the second day after Labor Day. And we've got a very busy September here at Royal Flush, which is exciting and fantastic. One of the challenges that we're coming up on and that we've kind of dealt through the summer is the crazy weather. And jobs being delayed due to rain and other things that we can't really control on these projects. And so some people might think, hey, we're in this really cool plumbing business, state-of-the-art pipelining. What the heck does weather have to do with it? Aren't we dealing with underground pipes? And the answer to that is yes, but due to the logistics on a lot of projects, and we've been actually doing some more roof drains and some more main storm lines, some bigger pipes in the streets and stuff. These we cannot have flow from water, right? So imagine if you got a building, flat roof, these pipes are coming through the roof and into a wall and under the ground and causing havoc. We can't have it be raining and fixing these pipes. And so certainly one of our challenges right now is weather and scheduling the jobs, rescheduling them, working them out. But those are just kind of traditional everyday things that any kind of exterior business. I always think I use the analogy of like a landscaper or a roofer, right? These are two trades in the small businesses that are almost solely, exclusively dependent on the weather. I wouldn't want to be in those businesses, especially this summer. And so busy September coming up and exciting planning on our end of the year goals and forecasting. And it's September already. There's only 4 months left in the year. It's going by fast. And so that's kind of like a big picture of what we're doing what we're working on coming up here.
So as far as goals, things, I know you mentioned we had a lot of jobs pushed back. What do those jobs look like? What do those entail? And as far as just general business goals, what are we looking to do between now and New Year's Eve?
Yeah, well, we'll start with those goals. So we are on target to hit our end of the year goal here at Royal Flush, which I'm very, very excited about, and continue our upward growth pattern. We've got a couple of large scale projects with National Grid and CCRI, a local community college, and anybody from New England knows National Grid. And so those are two really large, big scale projects that we're really excited about. Those, the National Grid project is very weather dependent. The CCRI job is not, but again, just scheduling, a lot of moving parts. You've got city and state money. We're working for a large contractor who's been fantastic, but just a lot of logistics, right? I'm on a schedule. When is it going on? What's the date? What's the time? I'm very particular about those things, and these projects are a little more fluid. And so just working through those. And then, kind of towards the end of the year, in probably mid to end October, where there's about 3 to 4 additional large purchases of equipment that we're going to be looking to invest in at Royal Flush to set us up for a successful 2024. I could talk about the equipment. One of those is an additional UV light system, which is the really fancy, cool light bulb that cures and dries all the epoxy. And so we've had a lot of internal debate on this piece of equipment. If you buy the equipment fully loaded, so think of you buy a new car, right? You can get the base model with crank windows. I don't even know if they make crank windows anymore. We'll use a truck, okay? We're gonna buy an F-150. You can get the crank windows, short bed, cloth seats, bare bones, right? Maybe that truck's like $33,000. Or you can get like the F-150 Lariat Ranch Edition with like every bell and whistle. That truck might be like $85,000, $90,000. Same thing goes with that Speedy Light UV system. You can buy what's called a naked system, which is just kind of the parts, or you can get it with light heads and all these fancy attachments. The purpose for us to have a secondary system is we're growing, we're doing more projects, but Mark, myself, and Jim, the owner, really want to avoid our equipment being down, right? And so in our business, in any business, if we think about it, a landscaper, which we talked before, right? So you show up to the job, you have probably one big Z-turn mower. You know, for a landscaper, a large fancy lawnmower might be $10,000, $12,000, $15,000. It's very rare that they might just have two. I have one for a backup to sit at the garage all day and not to be used, right? But what if that landscaper showed up and they've got 10 days of 80-degree weather, and they've been rained out for the whole month of July, and they're like, it's go time. It's time to make money, and all of a sudden that lawnmower is broken. They can't cut any grass, and they can't make any money. That would be detrimental, possibly suicidal for that business, right?
Yeah.
In the grand scheme of things, it's the same thing for us. Our equipment is so high-tech and so unique and so specialized, you can't take it to a mechanic to get fixed.
Yeah.
Even if you got the greatest guy, or even if you know how to fix it yourself, maybe a day or two, maybe you got to order some blades or a part. Like, you can kind of get back up and running in the landscaping world. Maybe, you know what, shit, I'll just use the push mower on these big lawns and I'll make it happen.
There's no department store to go to,
No.
essentially.
But for a Speedy Light system that's made and designed in Europe, you can't just get a part for it. You got to ship it out. It's weeks and weeks and weeks. So combined with us needing this additional piece of equipment to improve our production value and be able to do more jobs at once, the necessity is there to have a backup unit just in case. Worst case scenario, that if something goes wrong with one, we now have an additional unit that we can take a light head off and pop on and get back to work, because we are all, again, the timing, the scheduling. A lot of times our customers cannot have, you can't have downtime. We're scheduled there on a Wednesday and might have closed the wing of a hospital, or we're going to be doing a job at a salon and a law office in a little plaza. The salon's closing down. The law office can't use any bathrooms. They're going to have porta potties. Have anybody seen a lawyer use a porta potty? I wouldn't want to be there, right? They're not going to be happy. So imagine we showed up on that job and we go to plug in our equipment, it doesn't work. First of all, we're going to look like jackasses. And second of all, you're going to now scramble to figure out what to do. Now, there's always other options. There's different ways you can do things. We're in the problem-solving business, so we have up to this point always figured out. But we're at the point now to eliminate that as an issue. I always talk about checking things off my list in my box, right? And so the investment for that, I think a naked system, we call it, is about $65,000 to $70,000, and a brand new fancy system is about $100,000 to $140,000. So it's a significant investment. We're probably going to go with the naked system because we've got our system already that is fully loaded, right? It's got the sunroof and the leather and the heated everything and the Lariat. It's fancy. We can take a part off of that and put it on the naked and use it if we need it. And then what we'll do is we'll slowly build up. We'll slowly upgrade that new truck. We'll get the off-road tires. We'll have the leather seats installed. We'll put the heated seats in after. You can kind of add it as you go. And so that's the bigger piece of equipment. We're also in the market for a new truck and potentially a dump trailer. At the beginning of the year, we purchased our excavator. I think Mark and I had the hopes and goals and ambitions that kind of portion of the business would take off. And it has to a point. It's probably maybe only 5 to 10% of our revenue, which is fantastic because we have great partners and subcontractors, but now we're not giving that money to those guys. And so Mark and I are really, really excited about the other potential avenues and add-on sales, right? If we're thinking as like a retail store, what can we add on to a job that's going to be more profitable for us? You go down the checkout line, and there's all the candies and shit lined up on the side. Those are add-on sales that are super high margin, right? And so if we can add a dump trailer that Mark and I have been spitting ideas about getting some additional dumpster cans that we can rent out to people, and be more efficient. You know, I've talked about being efficient on those jobs. Right now, we have a tow behind dump trailer, and that's taking up an additional vehicle, which sometimes is complicating the logistics of getting to the job. So we're thinking of a potential truck itself with a dump trailer attached to it that can now be dedicated to this rig for our excavation division and continue to pursue, digging out manholes and digging out these larger access pits that we need. Also, one thing that's kind of intriguing, and Mark and I haven't really made a decision on it, but we've been coming across the need for customers to have what I call fancy porta potties.
Yep.
And so again, what that looks like when we're going into a project, we are interrupting that business or we are mandating downtime for them. And so some people it's no big deal. Some people it's catastrophic. They're not sure what to do. And so over the last couple of months, we've worked with another guy that we know who's in Fall River. He's fantastic, but part of his business is a little bit of these fancy porta potties. And so we always think about how can we differentiate ourselves from any other contractor in our business, and potentially being able to offer that service directly to the customer. So again, let's just say the law office. Hey, you guys are going to be down. Instead of getting the plastic porta potty, what if we were able to offer you a tow behind trailer system that you could park right outside? That is certainly not ideal, but you go in these things and they're pretty nice. Anybody would feel very, very comfortable using these facilities, be so less disruptive. Again, and when I'm pitching that or showing that to a contractor, that just continues to elevate the status of us at Royal Flush. Right? I already think we're at the top, especially compared to everybody else. Just these little, right? So if we're on a 1 to 100, I'm going to say we're at 90. Okay? Nobody is ever 100 in any business. I don't care what you're saying. But it's the extra 1 or 2% is the hardest to do, but also makes the biggest difference. It's easy to jump from 50 to 70 and 70 to 80 and 80 to 90. 90 to 100 is really tough in any business you're doing to get really efficient, really good add-on sales. How are we really maximizing these little things that can end up making a big, big difference on a job? Or God forbid, they get a quote from another lining company, and they're like, oh, the price is competitive. Well, yeah, I'm going to be bringing a high-end porta potty unit for you and your employees to minimize the disruption. Instead of having to walk to the other wing or you guys having to get it yourself, it's going to be part of our job. We're going to park it there the night before. We're going to take it as we leave. That's a service that we offer. I think that can be a real differentiator.
I totally agree, and it kind of goes hand in hand almost with the excavator almost. And I remember when we first got the excavator, you kind of talked about the vertical integration and kind of how can we have our hands in every factor of a job and kind of control every factor of a job. I'm pretty sure that's the phrase you used.
Yep.
Something like the porta potties. If someone's watching this and they've never seen what a job looks like, I've been to plenty of jobs where we're at some commercial building and the employees working there obviously can't use the bathrooms, so they have porta potty set up out there. That's like one of those underrated factors of a job that there's another player involved. And the more that we can kind of control that, and like you said, another source of income basically that we can kind of add on to a job, it just allows all that control to kind of fall under the Royal Flush umbrella almost.
Yep. Absolutely, Kyle.
And I like the analogy you used of the the candy bars at the checkout.
Yes. Yep. Impulse items.
Yeah, something like that, where it's just like small things where, from a consumer's perspective, I could go to Walmart and get X, Y, and Z, and then I could be like, oh, I'm gonna go to the convenience store down the street and grab a Twix bar. Yep. It's all in one place. The better you can kind of control every element of purchase. Yep. I think that's huge. So something like the porta potties, it might not be flying off the shelves like a Kit Kat bar.
Yes.
But it's one of those things in a job that it's that 1% that you kind of talked about, that the element that you can kind of control.
Yeah, and I'm going to take this off on a little tangent too. So I have experience in the retail space from my past job at Sherwin-Williams, managing stores in a business unit. And it's all about incremental growth and add-on sales. Okay, right? So if we're going to they're going to go to the store and you're going to buy this hat. Okay, hat's $25. What can I do to get you to buy an accessory with the hat? This was great at, I don't even know if they're around anymore, and you might be young. You go to Foot Locker or one of these stores in the malls to buy shoes. They want you to buy a package of socks. Yeah. Right? They got these bins of socks. That is the add-on sale. Do you want some shoelaces? Do you want some socks, right? in the paint world is, do we need any brushes, any rollers, any other tools, any spackle, any other supplies? Because you don't realize the margin on that package of socks that they're going to sell you for $7.99. They paid $1 for it. They're going to make 85% margin on the socks and probably 20% margin on the sneakers at Foot Locker, right? And so it's these add-on sales that can significantly boost your revenue over the span of a year. So if we use it back to us, if I can rent out that porta potty, which is expensive. The market industry for these is like $2,000 to $2,500 a time you rent them out. And they're nice porta potties. If we can rent that out just 10 times a year, and certainly not look at it selfishly, but have that be a point of value to the customer where it eliminates the disruption for them, they're going to see the value in it, right?
Exactly.
That could be, so that's $40,000 of additional revenue, right? That's a good quality commercial job for us. And so you think about that. It's like, what are these little things we can add on that over the course of the year? Well, we're doing more excavating. We're adding on this. All of a sudden, it's, we actually haven't done any more work. And boom, I just found $200,000 of revenue in our business. Just offering more solutions to the people, right? So again, if we think about the landscaping guy, which I know a little bit about because Joe had his own landscaping business, it's all about, I'll get you a weekly cut. But, what about the hedge trim for the bushes? You're going to upcharge on those. What about cutting down the trees and taking away some debris? The fall cleanups, right? So you might get your grass cut for $40, $50 a week. That guy's going to whack you $500, $600, $700, $800, $1,000 just to clean up the leaves. That's where they're making money, right? So it's the add-on sales. What else do you need? Can I put your mulch down? Can I take some rocks away? Can I do some debris? It's the add-on sales that make the big difference from the 90 to 92, right? And that's what we're looking at going into 2024 with the other big piece of equipment, which we know are going to take us there. We hope you're enjoying this episode of the Royal Flush Podcast, but I wanted to take a minute just to tell you a little bit more about what we do at Royal Flush and how we can potentially help you solve big problems when it comes to your underground sewer lines. Simply put, here's the ask. If you have any issues when it comes to a backup, a slow drain, anything going on with your pipe underneath your building, your house, your apartment complex, your hospital, anything that has to do with an underground sewer line, give us a call at Royal Flush. We'd love the opportunity to come out there, inspect your line, and potentially offer you a permanent solution to solve your problems with our state-of-the-art epoxy pipelining technology. Now back to the episode.
Transitioning to back to kind of the end of summer check-in, what are some challenges we faced over the last couple months, maybe from January to now, maybe from June to now? What are some hiccups? And you mentioned the weather.
Yep.
Anything else that
recently an employee of ours left. And he was one of our service techs, worked in the field with the guys. And he was a great guy. There's no animosity, no hard feelings. Wish him the best of luck, but it was a little unexpected. And, I think what that causes to do for me, anytime somebody leaves our organization, for better or worse, I take it personal. And it was nothing personal, but I try to inter-reflect and say, okay, well, what could we have done to eliminate this or not prevent this from happening? In this scenario, I really don't feel that there was anything that we could have done, but it was out of a negative usually comes a positive.
Yep.
So I'll loop back to that in a second. So for us right now, we're currently hiring for a second sales guy. Joe Spardella is our external sales rep, and we had him on the podcast, episode 3, I think. Joe's a fantastic guy, and he has been doing such a great job, exceeding our expectations. I know that model works. I'm so excited I know it works. So we need to get more guys like Joe. Not the easiest thing to do. The goal is actually for that person to be up and running in January 2024. But I've had this posting up since July. I'm very picky. I'm very particular. I know what it is I'm looking for. The second this man or woman walks in the door, I will know within 5 minutes if they will work here. I will know instantaneously.
I remember you said the same thing about Joe.
Yep.
Joe walked out of the interview and you looked at me. You said, Kyle, that's the guy.
That's the guy that's going to work for us.
And for better or for worse, we haven't seen that yet. But I know I can see when the green light goes on in your brain.
And so we're just looking for that person. And so I'll give a little PSA here that what we're looking for is doesn't matter age, doesn't matter sex. We're looking for somebody who is familiar with the sales process, can go out in the field and cold call, can set up appointments, and needs to know nothing about pipelining. Ideally, you don't know anything about pipeline because we know, Kyle, what do I say? How many people know about what we do?
About 0.1%.
Yes. And that's it. Those are literally the prerequisites. You have to ideally have some sales experience and be comfortable going out on the road and knocking on the door and introducing yourself and telling people what we do. It's not even really sales because you're not actually selling a project. You're just educating them on the technology. And if you're going to ask for anything is if and when you have an issue, if you don't have an issue right now, give us a call. We'd love to come by and check it out for you. That's it.
Yep.
So any walk of life, any sales background, we will train, we will coach. I will show you everything you need to know for you to be armed with all your weaponry to go out in the field and let people all know about pipelining. So that's number one. And number two, we're looking for probably one, if not two, additional what we call techs or guys in the field to continue to grow our team out there. And so reflecting back at myself when this employee left, what I realized is that we had not set up a clear, concise path for future growth, both financially and professionally within here at Royal Flush when it comes to our techs. That is my fault. I think in my picture, in my mind, those are conversations that we could have had that maybe I know, but I maybe haven't communicated properly with everybody. And so I use this as a point of like, okay, what can we do to implement to eliminate this from happening? And I really want to thank Travis from Savvy & Sons, who is another pipelining contractor in Connecticut. Travis, shout out to you. You and your guys have been fantastic with us and really transparent about the growth of your business, and you're crushing it. And we're so happy to be friends and colleagues in the same business as you. But I called up Travis because I know his company is on the trajectory where we want to go. He's really doing fantastic. So I told him the situation, and he told me, he goes, John, in my opinion, the reason this guy's going to leave is because he doesn't see the proper path for himself. That is also tied to compensation. And I said, you know what? You're right. And I mean, wasn't a lot of, not to toot my home, but not a lot of people will take that in a reflection. Oh, this guy's whatever's not for us, take it easy. But I'm like, I don't want this to ever happen again. That employee was a really good guy. I met his wife and his kids, and I wanted him to work here for a long time, and it just didn't work out. So what can we do to eliminate that from happening again in the future? And so what Travis told me he had implemented, and again, it's not my idea, I'm just going to do it, and this can work for every business, is we decided we're going to implement a tier tech system. Okay, so our guys, you call them techs, field techs, whatever you want to call them, whatever you call them in your industry. Again, we'll use the landscape guy, right? You got maybe 3 guys on a crew, and maybe you got a 1, a 2, and a 3. Okay, so for us, it's going to be tier 1 is the new guy, tier 4 is our top guy or a foreman. Okay, and within those tiers will be a compensation plan or base range based on a lot of different factors. Probably certainly coming into the business, your experience or knowledge. But there'll be criteria, skills, tasks, job requirements, standard performance, everyday things that you need to do. Okay, boom, tier 1. When you're tier 1, you should be and will be always working towards the jobs, tasks, skills, and abilities that a tier 2 tech will have. And so for us, that might be, hey, conducting 10 camera inspections in the field by yourself, and talking with the customer, gathering the footage, filling out the job sheet, and getting information back to me, right? It might be doing 10 daily checklists of making sure that the trucks have everything they need by yourselves, just as examples. Okay, always working towards tier 2. Upon completing those and us having a conversation, we will then sit down and say, yes, you've been promoted to a tier 2 tech. Here is your new salary range based on a couple different factors, okay? And then from so on and so forth. Tier 2 will always be working towards tier 3, and tier 3 ideally will always be working towards tier 4. And I was like, this makes complete sense, right? Just absolute complete sense. And so it's not implemented yet. It's going to take a lot of work on our end. I'm working on it daily. It's a little overwhelming, to be honest with you, because we also need to and want to implement a standard policies and procedures on how to do things. So, for instance, if I say, hey, Kyle, you're a tier 1, and I need you to do 10 camera inspections by yourself. And he goes, well, John, I've already done the 10. I mean, I know how to do them. And I say, well, I don't feel that you do, because every time you come in, I'm asking you for this, and I feel like you're missing stuff. And he's like, I thought that's how I was supposed to do it. Or, no, right? Nobody showed me that way. These are just growing pains, right? Well, a lot of times you assume, maybe I've done them with you and you've watched me. It's like, oh, Kyle will do it the way I do it. But instead, why don't we have a booklet, a sheet, a video, whatever it is. Kyle, here's the 10 steps of how to properly conduct a camera inspection. Step 1, before you leave the shop, you call and confirm with the customer and give them an ETA. That sounds really simple, doesn't it? That does not happen. Anybody out there, how many times have you had a service person come over your house and they just show up? And you're
That
like,
sounded
yeah.
pretty cool in the headphones.
Yeah,
I'm not
you're
gonna
like,
lie.
yeah. But you told me you're gonna be here at 2. It's 1:30. I'm in the middle of a call from at work. Oh, well, I'm here now. How many times has that happened? Thousands of times. Call, confirm. Literally, Mrs. Smith, it's 1:30 now. Our appointment's at 2. My GPS says I will be there in 32 minutes. Does that sound good? Yep, I'll be here. Great. Like, that's a really important step. Okay. Step 2, you come in, you knock on the door. You ask the customer to walk around the house and verbally explain the issues. I have notes already from me talking to them, see if they match up. Step 3, go to the truck, grab the equipment, the tools, the camera, the bucket. The goal is for you not to have to go back to the truck. Right? Grab this, this, and this. These are the 4 standard items you need for every camera inspection. Of course, you're going to have to go back to the truck, but let's try and eliminate the back and forth. You know how I feel about efficiency. Conduct the camera inspection, record it on the iPad, show it to the customer, answer any questions, show them a sample, show them a video of what an access pit means. When you come back, fill out the job sheet. Sit down with me, get Kyle the footage so you can upload it to YouTube, fill it out with me. We're going to do an estimate on the spot together. Those are the standard operating procedures and policies for conducting a camera inspection. So we need to break that down for every single thing that we do. Now, we all know, and everybody can say that. So, if I say, Kyle, what are the 5 steps to post a video? You're like, boom, 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 boom. But do you and I technically have that on paper?
No.
So doing those things is just a great exercise because it's going to eliminate confusion and will eliminate the point where Tech 1 feels he's ready to go to Tech 2, but I don't feel he is. We said, well, you've been doing your camera inspections, but you haven't been filling out all the steps. So I need you to make sure you do this and this, and then we'll revisit it in 2 weeks. And if you do those, then I'm comfortable with it. Cool, because it's on paper, it's in black and white, it's clear as day. When things, my opinion, when an employee gets frustrated, it's usually due to confusion or lack of communication. Okay, and that lack of communication might not always need to be verbal. A lot of times, I'm gonna talk to you, I'm gonna explain things to you, but I mean, I've read so many books. You only pick up on 50% of what you hear, depending on what's going on, and so, just revert back to the manual. Do steps 1 through 10, and you finish all those things, you will be exactly where you need to be. And it really opened my eyes up to empower the individual worker, let them take control of how far they want to go. Travis was explaining to me, he's like, maybe he has 7 steps, whatever they are. He goes, John, I've got guys that have been working with me for 8 years and are on step 2, and they're happy. They're happy as clams. This is what they want to do. I got guys that are working with me for 6 months, and they're on step 7. And they're like, I want to do everything. I want to earn as much as I can. I just want to do everything. So it's just, what makes one person happy is different than another. What financially, their views of success is different than another. So you're just simply arming the employee to control their destiny.
Yep.
And I think I knew that. Travis helped open my eyes to it. And so that's what we're going to start implementing here at the end of 3rd quarter into 4th quarter, with really the goal probably to have that fully rolling on Q1 2024 for the new year. But boom, this is everybody's transparent. Everybody knows what the deal is. Everybody knows what I can make, what this can make, what my future can be here. I think it's really, really going to work. I think it's going to be fantastic.
And I think it's just, obviously, this is all you and Mark. This is all kind of top of the food chain here. But I think it's just a good way to incentivize kind of performance. It gives a structure and say, hey, meet these thresholds. You are incentivized for it.
Yeah.
And I think just having the structure is super, super important. Obviously, this whole idea is new to me. I just learned about it, but the structure is good in the sense that I know in a previous episode we talked about the possibility of expanding and having multiple locations.
Yep.
And I posed the question of how do you kind of keep everything standardized and kind of the way we like it here in East Providence. If we were to have a location in New Hampshire or Maine or
Exactly.
north of
100%
Boston, and it's almost making that structure for down the line if need be.
Yep.
And there's this blueprint of here's what you need to do, here's how to do it, this is how you meet these thresholds, and it's almost like a training without any formal training, if that makes sense.
It is.
because you mentioned like here are the steps to doing a camera inspection. You're out doing it, but it's not necessarily you're being walked through it. It's not some formal training. It's you're getting this experience on your own, and in the process, kind of working towards kind of climbing that that ladder. And I think just keeping everything standardized. You know, if we were to expand, location to location, having that standard blueprint is super important to keep everything kind of, what's the word? Parallel, I guess.
Yes. Yep.
And kind of getting that nipped in the butt while we're still solely in East Providence, I think is
Yeah, we're working out the kinks, right?
It's going to help in the long run tremendously.
Yeah.
I think.
When we expand and we're ready to go, what I'm doing now is going to be the foundation for that.
Yep.
And what's nice is it's going to be a lot of work at once or up front.
Definitely.
But once it's there, you only pour the foundation of the house one time.
Yep.
Okay, it's a lot of work to dig it out and get the forms, but once it's cured, it's there. That is literally what everything sits on. So we're going to tweak and add and change these things, but I'm going to be doing 1% to the camera inspection. Maybe there's something we need to add or subtract in the future, but it's going to be laid out and done. And so that just makes the ability to move fast on that upward trajectory we want even easier. So it's painful now to be fast and upwards in 6 months, 12 months, a year, whatever. And so that's the plan, and that's really worth it. It is painful. I mean, I don't really want to do it, if I'm being honest with you. It's tedious to think about, just all the little things that we do on a day-to-day basis that you do without thinking about it, but when you go to put it on paper. My dad gives this analogy. So, Dad, I know you're listening. You'll listen to all the episodes. My dad was in the car business, worked on cars his entire life. And he says, you don't realize all the subconscious steps you do to get in your car and start it every day. And if you had to write it down, it would seem foreign to somebody. You get in the car, you start it, and you go, right? But realistically, you are grabbing the keys, you are unlocking it, you are opening the door, you are sitting down, you are maybe adjusting a mirror, putting your foot on the brake, turning the ignition on, probably adjusting the radio, adjusting the heat and the temperature and thermostat, putting on the defrosters, maybe getting your favorite radio station set, putting your coffee down, putting your lunch down to the side, checking your mirrors, holding the brake, pulling the lever down, going in reverse, and starting. Now, do you ever think about any of that?
Yeah, no, I was going to say, it's one of those things that
when you start a car,
it almost becomes unconscious to you.
Yes,
like
but to put it down on paper, or if I'm gonna show Connor, my 4-year-old son, here's the steps to do. It's probably like 15 steps.
Yeah.
And so imagine if you're getting your driver's test and be like, here's what you do to start a car, and we're gonna pound this into everybody's head so you never make a mistake. That's the goal of what we're gonna do. Standardize it, do it. So then, been driving for those, it becomes a subconscious act. You do not have to think about it. You go to a camera inspection. I have the customer walk through with it. I get the equipment from the truck. I only went back to my truck once this week. I had everything that I needed. I showed them everything on the video. I recorded it to the iPad. I answered all their questions. I came back. I uploaded it to YouTube with Kyle. I went over with John. The estimate went out. We got the job. Subconscious, it's just natural. It's in my bones. I know how to do a camera inspection. That's what we're going to get to.
Definitely. I think that structure is awesome. And like I said, the idea of it's new to me, but I think it's in the long run is going to be so important and just crucial to the success of the business. Is there anything else you want to add?
No, I don't. I think that kind of covers the majority of what was on the top of my mind today, and some things that we're doing and what we're going towards, and the plan for everything moving forward. So I want to ask anybody local looking to have a really cool sales career with us, contact me. Anybody who's looking to work with their hands, contact us. We're looking to hire some new techs, and the end of this year is going to be amazing. To 2024 is going to be even better. So stay tuned for more episodes.
Yep. Thank you guys for watching.
Thanks.